Hello, hello, hello. Kevin here. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I am making another video for Cheers Kevin Reads. This is exciting. We're going to review The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, but I got to get some business out of the way first. So the first bit of business is, oh my God, I haven't done a book review on this channel in forever, and even then, I don't even remember how exactly book reviews are supposed to go. I've been trying to watch other YouTubers do book reviews, and I'm like, everybody has a different style. I don't know what exactly is supposed to happen here, so you're just going to have to bear with me and give me feedback and kind of guide me back into this whole booktube thing. So this is on you, really. You can be proud of yourself if these videos get better with time. But of course, I will bear all the responsibility if they do not. Second thing is The Name of the Wind, Kevin? Really? Because that book is infinity years old, by which I mean like 10 years old. Yes, really. In fact, right now, I am currently reading The Stand. So, third bit of meta information, people are really weird when it comes to spoilers. I feel like the spoiler phobia has grown and grown and grown as I've gotten older. That now I don't know. If you're the type of person who just doesn't want to know anything at all about a story, then don't watch book reviews about the story. But other than that, I will try and say, I'm going to try and give like general thoughts, and then I'll be like, give away! Without any further ado, let's talk about The Name of the Wind. This is not that book. This is The Wise Man's Fear, which is the second book in the Kingkiller Chronicle, which is a weird name for the Chronicle, because so far there's been no mention of king killing, at least unless I completely missed something, which is entirely possible. But this is the second book. Clever Kevin decided I'm going to go to the library today and grab a copy of The Name of the Wind so that I can be like, hey, booktube, and I actually hold a physical book, because mostly I listen to audiobooks, but that did not go down so well. They did not have that one in stock, so I went, all right, well, why don't I just get the second one, and then I can read it. So, you know. Anyway, if we look, it does say best-selling author, which I'm imagining, if we remove the public library sticker, would say best-selling author. So, you know, that's a good endorsement of his previous works, specifically The Name of the Wind. So The Name of the Wind is kind of your typical magic school. I shouldn't say typical. It is your magic school story. It feels like every fantasy setting, especially fantasy settings that end up having a lot of books in the series, have just sort of this magic school type of setting, which I think sort of makes sense because it's like an easy way to sort of drive the plot forward and have sort of a way for you to feel like you're making progress, even if and so you have that sort of as a way to keep the reader feeling like they're moving along in the story, while the plot doesn't have to focus on that so much. You don't have to necessarily give people like look, you're completing these steps. But I shouldn't say it's like everything. If it does remind me a little bit of Dragon Singer. For those of you who've read the Anne McCaffrey books, which I've only read maybe 2/3 of them thus far. I'm still working my way along some of those, but very similar in sort of theme. The Dragon Rise of Prince is also amazing, but yeah, a magic school. Of course, Dragon Singer isn't even a magic school. It is a bard. It is a school for bards. But anyway, you have fantasy schools. This is a very interesting book. And the premise is that you have this kid who basically is just a freaking genius. He kicks ass at everything that he does. Makes me nervous to say that because it really is, to some extent, a flaw of the book, I think, although I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into spoilers, because, I don't know, I have sort of mixed feelings about that. But anyway, this kid, he starts off as part of sort of a traveling theater group, which is super fun, and then, because of reasons, he goes off to go to the fantasy school, where he starts to learn magic school stuff, which is basically takes us through the entirety of the book. Now, I personally loved this book. I do have some reservations about where it's going to go, but I'm willing to give the author sort of the benefit of the doubt and go like, all right, well, if I read the next book, the things are going to sort of make sense, or at least there are reasons why the flaws that I see could be turned into strengths, perhaps. Particularly that one of like, oh, so here's this kid. He goes to school. He doesn't have a lot of money. That problem just sort of disappears. Lots of just sort of the traditional like, oh, he's the protagonist, so things are gonna work out for him. That'd be sort of my only complaint. it's an enjoyable read. I'm just fascinated by how common sort of the fantasy school trope is, but yet every author has a completely different spin on it. So if this is something that you would like to read, I would recommend it. The character, but I don't even know if I pronounced the name. The character's name is Kvothe, which is a really weird name to pronounce correctly. But yeah, so the idea is that he is telling this to a person who's transcribing down his first-person tale. So he is now an innkeeper, and he's telling the story of how he grew up and how he went to fantasy school. And not just fantasy school, but also his sort of adventures in trying to come up with the money to stay in fantasy school, and relationships and music and lots of different things. So if that seems like your bag, go ahead and check it out. And at this point, I'm going to go, rah, go away, spoilers, go away, go away, go away. So there are two things. One, either there are just never negative consequences that happen to this guy, which I suppose you could say that not being allowed into the archives is a negative consequence, but really in the scheme of things, that's very, very minor in his tale. Or secondly, he seems to be like deliberately bringing up things just for the purpose of describing how awesome he is. Now, the very end of the book, it's like there's like no resolution because the transcriber is visited by a friend of Kvothe who's like, hey, you need to get him to talk more about his heroic things because, man, look at how pathetic he is now. You need to help remind him of just what an awesome person he could be. And we could tell that this guy is incredibly skilled, picks things up really, really quickly. But and that's just sort of the end of the story. So the big fear that I have, though, is that this is just sort of, yep, he automatically wins because he's the protagonist. The whole, getting into the school and being like, yep, your tuition is -3, and then he misinterprets that to mean 3. I can't afford 3, and then he goes, oh, look, everything ended up working out for me. It just seems like that's sort of the trend. I did think that that when he gets his pipes, when he's in and he's performing. There's this wonderful passage where he's performing the song. He's playing, and the string breaks, and he continues playing, and this other voice comes in. There's this wonderful music. It was incredibly moving. I actually maybe cried a little bit, but even so, the idea that you set up this sort of premise of, like, this is a really hard thing and very few people ever achieve such and such. Well, then you sort of expect, well, what's supposed to happen? You're supposed to fail at some stuff. Right? Sort of the tradition is there are try-fail cycles. So you do something, you try. Either you succeed and there's some very negative kind of side effect that happens because you succeeded, or you don't succeed, and that gives you more of a motivation to continue trying. And it felt like the challenges presented to the main character were not huge. Obviously, there are a lot of unanswered questions, but here's the reason I'm sort of willing to give a pass on this, is that I think that you can sort of excuse it because this is the character telling about his past, but that it's very clear that right now that the present day Kvothe of telling his story is utterly flawed. He's completely given up. So you have a very flawed character, and that is like the huge weakness, even if this past romanticized version of himself seems to be able to do no wrong. Definitely going to have to see. Like, I feel like you can get away with that for one book. I'm gonna be interested to read the second book in the series, because I don't know. Like, if you try and do that more, this is gonna be, okay. So you're a character who could do no wrong, and then meh. Then suddenly you're like, nope, actually I suck. But in general, I'm impressed that Pat Rothfuss managed to create a character that was really just did seem like, yeah, total teacher's pet can do no wrong in some senses. I don't know. I think I almost felt a little bit the same way with the first Harry Potter book, that there was a lot of like, yeah, you're getting away with a lot more than you really should be. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see. And I'm really hoping that basically as things go on, we'll be able to see sort of cracks in that the reason that this character is portrayed as such a flawless, selfless character is not just narcissism on the part of the character or bad writing on the part of the author, but is really sort of a setup of like, here's this Hercules figure that now we're going to completely decimate in the rest of the series for reasons, and then something will happen after that, because I think that's great. That could be great. Anyway, I like the progression. I like the story. Very excited to read book 2. Would definitely recommend it. I think I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. I was between 4 and 5 because of that whole just like, this is kind of a flawless character. But then I was like, maybe that's for reasons. So anyway, let me know what you think of the reviews. I'm really trying to work my way through how the heck this even works. So please, whatever feedback you feel is appropriate, leave it down in the comments. You'll like, subscribe, all the buttons, and I will see you next week with another book. I don't even know what it is. It will probably not be The Stand, but it will probably be something else. I don't know what I'm talking about. Have a good one. Cheers.